You know what's funny. Everyone keeps saying they want to be saved. But when someone tries to tell them the truth, they cover their ears. They say they're looking for answers, but the second the answer doesn't fit their comfort, they call it madness. People don't really want the truth. They want reassurance. They want someone to pat them on the head and tell them everything's fine, even when it's burning down around them. They'll pray for help, but when help comes wrapped in words that make them uncomfortable, they walk away like they never asked for it. People always talk about how much they love the truth. They post about it, preach about it, demand it from others. But the funny thing is, the moment the truth starts scraping against their comfort, they flinch. They twist it, deny it, mock it. Anything to make it softer, easier to swallow. Because truth isn't gentle. It doesn't care about feelings. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just arrives, uninvited, and starts tearing down the little illusions you built to feel safe. And that's the part people can't stand. They say they want the truth, but what they really want is validation dressed up as honesty. They want to hear that they're good, that they're right, that nothing's wrong with the way they live. They want the truth to make them feel powerful, not exposed. So when truth actually shows up in all its raw, uncomfortable, brutal glory, they call it cruel. They call it negative. They say, that's too much. Because deep down, they know it's pointing to something real. Something they've buried so deep, they forgot it was even there. And that's the beauty of the lie. Lies are comforting. They're warm. They're easy to hold. They whisper, you're fine just as you are. Don't change. Don't question. Lies tuck you in at night and stroke your ego while the truth waits outside, pounding on the door, getting louder every day you ignore it. You can see it everywhere. People surround themselves with echo chambers, with voices that sound just like theirs. They call that community, but it's really just insulation. It's a wall built from shared delusion. Everyone clapping for everyone else. No one daring to say, you might be wrong. Because being wrong feels like dying to them. They've built their entire existence on pretending they've got it figured out. And once you start living that way, truth becomes your enemy. You'll fight it. You'll mock those who speak it. You'll label them crazy, dramatic, dangerous. Anything to protect the fantasy, the irony. The truth doesn't need your approval. It doesn't beg to be believed. It just waits. Patiently. It knows that one day the lie will crumble under its own weight. Because it always does. The lie's biggest weakness is that it requires maintenance. You have to keep feeding it. More denial, more distractions, more fake smiles. But the truth, it stands there, silent, solid, unmoving. It doesn't age, doesn't rot. It just waits for the moment you get tired of pretending. And when that moment comes, it hits you all at once. Like waking up from a dream that felt too real. You start seeing through the people, the patterns, the routines you once trusted. You realize how much of your life was spent running in circles, chasing illusions just to avoid looking at yourself. And that's when it clicks. Truth was never hiding. You were. You hid behind work, relationships, money, religion, noise. Anything that kept you from hearing that small, quiet voice whispering, "This isn't it." That whisper never stopped. You did. You stopped listening the moment the lie made you feel good. The moment the applause became louder than your conscience. You convinced yourself that peace meant silence, not realization. But real peace only comes when the truth finally settles in, even if it breaks you first. And maybe that's why most people run from it. They don't want to shatter. They'd rather live in a carefully painted illusion than rebuild from the ruins of reality. But here's the cruel joke. Truth doesn't care whether you're ready or not. It doesn't care how safe your lie feels. It comes for everyone, in whispers or in storms. Some hear it and wake up. Others wait until it screams. And when it does, it's not asking for permission anymore. It's reminding you that you asked for it once. You begged for clarity, for answers, for purpose. You said, "I want to know." And now it's here, standing right in front of you, daring you to look it in the eye without blinking. The world's gotten so loud that silence feels unnatural now. Everywhere you turn, there's a voice. Someone selling you a dream, a belief, a distraction. You wake up to noise, fall asleep to noise, and in between you're drowning in it. The noise tells you what to want, what to fear, who to blame, who to follow. It tells you how to think before you ever get the chance to do it yourself. And the scariest part is, you don't even notice it anymore. It's become normal. You call it staying informed, being connected, but it's really just a leash made of sound. A never-ending hum of manipulation wrapped in entertainment. They figured it out, you know. They don't need to chain you up to control you. All they need is your attention. Because once they have that, they own you. You think you're choosing what you watch, what you listen to, but the truth is, it's choosing you. It's shaping you. Every scroll, every song, every perfectly crafted headline slides right into your subconscious, rewriting the script without you even noticing. You start believing thoughts that aren't yours, chasing desires that never belong to you and calling it freedom. Noise has become the new religion. People worship it without realizing it. They kneel before their screens, their feeds, their favorite voices, hanging on every word as if salvation depends on it. They don't meditate, they consume. They don't think, they react. They don't seek truth, they seek validation in the form of likes, comments, applause. It's not communication anymore. It's addiction. You need the buzz, the chaos, the noise just to feel alive. And when it's gone, when it's quiet, you panic. Because in that silence, there's nowhere to hide. You ever notice how uncomfortable people get when things go quiet? They reach for their phones, turn on music, talk just to fill the air. Because silence exposes things the noise covers up. It forces you to hear your own thoughts, to face yourself without filters. And that's terrifying for most. The noise tells you you're fine, that everything's okay, that you're doing what you're supposed to. But the silence doesn't lie. It whispers what you already know, but refuse to admit. It asks questions you've been too afraid to answer. And maybe that's why it's been replaced. The system doesn't want you to think. It wants you to consume. Because a thinking person is dangerous. A quiet person, even worse. Silence gives birth to awareness, and awareness breaks control. That's why everywhere you go, there's a hum of distraction waiting for you. Flashing lights, endless music, meaningless chatter, all designed to keep your mind busy enough to never wander into the dangerous territory of self-reflection. You think you're free. But when was the last time you sat in silence and actually felt it? Not the fake piece of zoning out, but the heavy kind. The one that makes you realize how much of your life has been stolen by noise. The one that makes you notice the emptiness you've been filling with constant stimulation. People avoid that feeling like death. They'll run to anything. Social media, work gossip, even misery, just to stay distracted. Because deep down, they know if they stop listening to the world for long enough, they might finally hear themselves. And that's the one voice the system doesn't want you to find. Because once you do, once you hear that inner whisper again, the noise loses its power. You start seeing through the games, the manipulation, the endless circus of opinions that were never yours. You start realizing how much of your life was designed to keep you obedient, scared, predictable, and it makes you angry at first. Angry that you were fooled, angry that you played along. But that anger fades into something stronger, a quiet kind of clarity, the kind that can't be bought or influenced. That's when you understand why they keep turning the volume up. They can't afford for you to wake up. They can't risk you remembering what silence feels like, because silence isn't empty. It's full of truth, full of power, full of everything they told you didn't exist inside you. And once you rediscover it, you can't go back to noise. It starts to sound fake, forced, hollow. The same voices that used to guide you now just echo like static. And the moment that happens, you become something the world can't manipulate anymore. Someone who listens, but not to them. Someone who finally hears what's real beneath the noise. Silence. It's funny how people claim to crave peace, but the second they get it, they scramble to fill it. They say they want quiet minds, calm hearts. But when the world goes still, when the noise stops, they can't handle what starts speaking inside them. Because silence isn't empty. It's brutally honest. It doesn't lie, doesn't flatter, doesn't play along. It shows you what the noise has been hiding all this time. And most people don't want to see that. They don't want to face themselves. They'd rather stay distracted than deal with the voice that asks the hard questions. The voice that knows the truth. See, silence is where the real voice lives. Not the loud, demanding one that comes from the world, but the quiet one that's been whispering underneath all the chaos. It's patient, but it's sharp. It doesn't shout to get your attention. It waits for the moment you stop running. That's when you start hearing it. The thoughts you've ignored. The feelings you buried. The truth you've been pretending doesn't exist. It's all right there, waiting in the quiet, and it's relentless once it's found you. You can't unhear it. You can't escape it. That's why people fear silence. It's not the absence of sound that scares them. It's the presence of truth. You can see it in how people live. They surround themselves with noise because silence feels like confrontation. Every second of the day has to be filled with something. Music, chatter, screens, notifications. Because if they stop for even a minute, that voice starts to rise. The one that says, "You're not happy. You're pretending. You've lost yourself." They don't want to hear it, so they drown it. They call it staying busy, being productive. But it's really just running from their reflection. But here's the secret. Silence doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It waits. It seeps through cracks when you least expect it. In the middle of the night, when everyone's asleep and the room's too quiet, that's when it comes back. You can't scroll past it, can't mute it, can't reason it away. It speaks in that strange, familiar tone that feels both terrifying and comforting. It knows you better than anyone else. It reminds you of the things you lost chasing the noise. The moments you traded for validation. The pieces of yourself you gave up to belong. And the thing is, that voice isn't cruel. It's not trying to break you. It's trying to wake you. But waking up hurts, doesn't it? Because to wake up, you have to admit you've been asleep. You have to admit that the life you built might not be real. That the person you've been playing might not be you. Silence forces you to look in the mirror without the filters, without the applause, without the illusion. It strips everything away until all that's left is you. The raw, unedited version. The one the world never got to meet because you were too busy being what they wanted. That's why silence feels heavy. It's not emptiness. It's truth pressing down on you, waiting to be acknowledged. And the moment you stop fighting it, something strange happens. You start hearing things differently. The world doesn't sound the same anymore. The noise loses its flavor. The opinions of others don't sting like they used to. You start realizing how much power you gave away by letting the noise define you. How much of your life was lived according to other people's expectations? Silence doesn't want your perfection. It wants your honesty. It wants you to stop performing, to stop explaining, to stop pretending you're okay when you're not. It invites you to sit in the stillness, to let the discomfort burn through all the lies you told yourself just to survive. It's not pleasant. It's not peaceful. It's raw. It's ugly. It's real. But it's also where transformation begins, because nothing real grows in noise. Growth needs space, quiet, and truth. That's why so few people ever find themselves. They're too afraid to face what silence will show them. They think peace means escaping the noise. But true peace comes from surviving the silence. From sitting in it long enough to understand it. From realizing that the voice inside you wasn't your enemy. It was your only friend brave enough to tell you the truth. The noise outside wants your attention. The silence inside wants your awakening, and only one of them is on your side. People chase comfort like it's the prize, like the goal of life is to never feel anything sharp again. They call it peace, but it's not peace, it's sedation. They want calm without clarity, success without struggle, love without vulnerability. They wrap themselves in soft lies, thinking they're protecting their hearts, but all they're really doing is building a cage out of cushions. Comfort feels warm, safe, familiar. It whispers, "Stay here." You've earned it, even when it's slowly killing your drive. Because comfort doesn't grow you. It lulls you. It rocks you to sleep while your potential starves in the corner. You can see it in people's eyes. The dullness. The exhaustion. They're not tired from fighting battles. They're tired from avoiding them. They've convinced themselves that peace means stillness, when in truth, it's motion that keeps you alive. They stopped chasing, stopped questioning, stopped risking because the unknown made them sweat. They call that maturity, wisdom being content. But it's not. It's fear wearing a friendly face. Comfort is a slow poison, and it works best when you don't notice it sinking in. There was a time when you were alive, really alive. When risk made your heart race, when failure didn't scare you, because at least it meant you were trying. But the world trained you out of that. It told you to be reasonable, to take the safe road, to stay small. It made you believe that survival was better than living. And the moment you accepted that, you stopped being dangerous. Because a comfortable person is predictable. They don't rise, they don't fight, they don't question. They just exist. And that's exactly what the system wants. Comfort builds traps that look like blessings. The job that pays enough to keep you quiet. The relationship that feels secure but drains your soul. The routine that feels productive but keeps you numb. You tell yourself you're doing fine, that you're grateful, that you're just keeping it steady. But deep down, there's that tiny spark that still remembers what freedom felt like. The version of you that didn't care about being liked. That didn't need permission to take up space. That didn't apologize for wanting more. Comfort killed that version. Not with violence, but with softness. The real danger of comfort is how it rewires your mind. It convinces you that struggle means failure. That discomfort means something's wrong. But discomfort is the only thing that ever made you grow. It's the burn that makes you stronger. The fear that sharpens your focus. The pain that teaches you who you are. The moment you stop running toward challenges, you start decaying. You begin to shrink into the version of yourself that fits neatly inside the life you've settled for. And once that happens, you start defending your cage. You call it home. You convince yourself that the walls are keeping you safe, when they're really just keeping you small. People talk about freedom like it's something someone gives you. But freedom doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It comes wrapped in chaos. It demands sacrifice. It makes you lose sleep. It breaks your pride. It forces you to face everything you've been hiding from. That's why most people never find it. Because freedom and comfort can't live in the same room. One has to die for the other to survive. The cruelest part. Comfort doesn't take everything from you at once. It takes it piece by piece. First, it takes your hunger, then your curiosity, then your courage, and before you know it, you wake up one day and realize you've built a life that looks complete but feels hollow. You've achieved everything you thought would make you happy, and yet, something's missing. That something is the fire that comfort slowly smothered while you were too afraid to disturb the peace. And that's the joke of it all. People spend their lives chasing comfort, only to realize it was never the goal. Because real fulfillment doesn't come from safety. It comes from struggle, from uncertainty, from walking through fear and coming out stronger. The world will tell you that comfort is happiness, but that's the biggest lie of all. Happiness isn't the absence of discomfort. It's the mastery of it. It's the ability to stand in the storm and smile because you know it's shaping you. Comfort wants you still. Growth wants you awake. And only one of them keeps you alive. Freedom isn't a gift. It's a consequence. And the moment you stop pretending you're free, that's when you start tasting what it actually means to be alive. People think freedom is about doing whatever they want, going wherever they please, answering to no one. But that's not freedom. That's noise dressed up as liberation. Real freedom starts the moment you stop lying to yourself. The moment you stop performing for approval. The moment you stop chasing validation like a hungry dog waiting for scraps. The moment you stop pretending that the world owes you peace while you refuse to fight for it. Most people never reach that point because pretending is easier. It's safer. They convince themselves that they're free because they have choices, but those choices are already chosen for them. They're given paths that all lead to the same cage. Different walls, same chains. They call that control, normal life. They decorate it, glamorize it, post about it, and call it success. But deep down, they know something feels off. The smile feels heavier than it should. The laughter feels rehearsed. The days blend together because they're not living. They're repeating. And when you repeat long enough, you start to forget who you were before the repetition began. You forget what made you wild, unpredictable, raw. You forget the sound of your own voice when you spoke from conviction, not fear. The world teaches you to trade your authenticity for acceptance. And you take that deal, thinking it'll make you happy. But happiness built on pretending isn't happiness. It's performance. You become addicted to applause. And every time the world goes quiet, you start to crumble. That's not freedom. That's slavery dressed in designer clothes. When you stop pretending, you start losing things. Friends who only loved the version of you that entertained them. Jobs that depended on your silence. Comfort that relied on your blindness. Everything begins to fall apart, and that's when most people run back to pretending, because truth feels too heavy, it costs too much. But what they don't realize is that losing all of that isn't the end. It's the beginning. Every loss burns away a layer of the lie. Every rejection cuts another chain. Every broken illusion makes room for something real to finally grow. And that's when you start to see it. Freedom isn't found in control, it's found in surrender. Not the kind of surrender that means giving up, but the kind that means letting go of the image you've been protecting, the illusion of perfection, the fake calm, the desperate need to look unshaken. You realize that the things you were trying so hard to keep together were the very things suffocating you. The moment you stop trying to hold it all up, something shifts. You breathe differently. You think differently. You start seeing people for what they are, not what they show. You start seeing yourself for what you've become and what you could still be. The world doesn't want you free. It wants you comfortable enough to comply, scared enough to stay in line. It rewards obedience and calls it discipline. It punishes individuality and calls it arrogance. But the truth is, the ones who break away are always the ones who finally stop pretending. The ones who say, no more. Not to others, but to themselves, to the fake smiles, the polite lies, the endless need to be liked. They choose authenticity over approval, and that's what makes them untouchable. Because when you have nothing left to hide, there's nothing left to use against you. But don't get it twisted. Freedom isn't pretty. It's messy, lonely, uncomfortable. It strips away everything fake until you're left staring at the raw version of yourself, the one you've been avoiding. It demands pain, patience, and honesty. But in that rawness, you find something you didn't know you were missing. Peace. Not the peace that comes from everything being okay, but the kind that comes from knowing you can handle it when it's not. The moment you stop pretending, you stop chasing people who never saw you. You stop fighting battles that were never yours. You stop apologizing for existing. You walk differently. You speak differently. There's a weight that falls off your shoulders, one that you didn't even know you were carrying. You stop needing to explain yourself because you finally understand yourself. You stop trying to be understood by a world that thrives on confusion. And that's when they'll call you strange, cold, even dangerous. But that's only because they can't control you anymore. Freedom doesn't come from changing the world. It comes from no longer letting the world change you. It's not about rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It's about remembering who you were before you were told who to be. The world will beg you to keep pretending because your authenticity threatens everything built on illusion. But the moment you drop the mask, you stop belonging to them. You belong to yourself again. And that's the kind of power they can't touch. You ever notice how right before something good happens, everything starts falling apart? Like the moment you're about to catch a break, life decides to hit you harder than ever. The car breaks down. People start acting strange. Your mind gets noisy, and the world feels heavier than it should. You start thinking, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I was wrong. But that's the joke, isn't it? The closer you get to the finish line, the more the battlefield starts shaking. Because victory doesn't come wrapped in calm. It comes disguised as chaos. The funny thing about life is that it never warns you before it starts to shake. It just begins to twist, turn, and collapse like a building on fire. And you're left standing there, wondering what you did wrong. But that's the thing, you didn't do anything wrong. You're just close. Too close. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the more chaos life throws at you. It's like the world can smell it, the scent of someone about to rise, and it panics. It sends distractions, storms, people, and pain. It's almost as if the whole universe starts playing a game to see how badly you really want what you've been waiting for. You start noticing how things that once worked suddenly fall apart. Doors that once opened easily now slam shut in your face. The phone stops ringing, people stop showing up, and silence becomes your only companion. It's not bad luck, it's a test of endurance. Because when you're on the edge of a win, that's when the noise gets loudest. Life will whisper, maybe this isn't worth it. It will dangle comfort right in front of your tired eyes, just to see if you'll give up a second before the victory. You ever notice how right before the dawn, the night feels the longest? That's what it's like before your breakthrough. It's pitch black, no signs of change, just endless waiting. You feel trapped in a loop, wondering if you've gone insane for believing in something invisible. You keep pushing, but the results mock you. You smile in public, but your mind screams when you're alone. And that's exactly when most people quit. Because chaos has a way of convincing you it's permanent when it's really the last barrier between you and everything you've been fighting for. But here's the truth no one tells you. Life doesn't attack what's not a threat. You don't see storms forming over empty seas. You only see them when something valuable lies beneath. The more pressure you feel, the more certain it is that something big is trying to come out of you. That chaos. It's a disguise. A camouflage. It's trying to make you believe you're cursed when in reality, you're chosen for something greater. The noise, the delays, the betrayals, they're part of the initiation. They're the toll you pay to cross from almost to arrived. People won't understand why you're still fighting when everything looks lost. They'll think you're being stubborn or delusional. But they don't hear what you hear. They don't feel what you feel. Because when you're that close, something inside you refuses to die. It's that silent knowing that says, just one more push. You can't explain it, you just know you're not done yet. And life knows it too. That's why it fights you harder. It's trying to break your spirit before you cross the finish line. When you start losing everything, don't panic. When people walk away, don't chase. When it feels like the walls are closing in, don't scream. That's not destruction. It's rebirth. Life isn't taking from you. It's stripping you clean. Removing everything that can't go with you where you're headed. The chaos is the proof that the shift has already begun. You're not stuck. You're being shaken free. The pain isn't punishment. It's purification. Every setback is a spark building pressure behind the dam that's about to burst. You'll notice how things get quieter right before it happens. The storm stops roaring, time slows down, and there's a strange stillness in the air. That's the moment before it hits, the silence before the explosion, the test before the reward. You start realizing that chaos isn't random, it's calculated. It's life's way of asking, do you still believe? And only the ones who do, the ones who stay steady in the madness, get to see what's on the other side. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the heavier it gets. That's not a curse. That's how you know it's real. Because if it were easy, it wouldn't be worth it. And if it were meant for everyone, it wouldn't be meant for you. So when everything starts breaking down, when chaos comes crashing through your door, don't mistake it for an ending. It's the beginning hiding behind the mask of destruction. And the closer you are, the louder it will get. You ever notice how people think success just happens? Like it's some kind of lucky ticket, handed out to a few special ones while everyone else just watches. They look at winners and think, oh, they had it easy. But what they don't see is the blood, the nights without sleep, the tears behind the smile. They don't see how close those people were to giving up before something inside them refused to die. That's the part nobody talks about, the breaking point. The place where most people turn back, but the chosen ones, they crawl through it. You start chasing your dream, and at first, it feels exciting. You can almost see it. You're full of energy, hope, that wild fire burning inside your chest. But then the walls start closing in. Things don't go your way. The world starts laughing, whispering, "You really thought you could do this?" And suddenly, that excitement turns into doubt. That's when life begins its little game. It throws obstacles at you, not to stop you, but to measure you. It wants to see what you'll do when it takes away the applause, the support, the comfort. It wants to know who you are when no one's watching. You'll meet people who pretend to believe in you, but deep down, they're just waiting to see you fail. They smile in your face, but you can feel their envy from miles away. And the funny thing is, you'll still try to prove yourself to them. You'll still try to make them proud. But that's the trap. The moment you start living for validation, you've already handed over your power. Because the truth is, people don't clap for what they don't understand. They mock what intimidates them. And if you're dreaming big, you'll always make small minds uncomfortable. Then comes the silence. The days where no one checks on you. The moments when everything feels pointless. You'll wake up, stare at the ceiling, and think, what's the use? That's when most people quit. They trade their dream for security, their fire for comfort. But the ones who keep going, they understand something the rest never will. They know pain is part of the process. They know pressure is proof that something is forming. They know silence is where strength is born. When you stop needing the world to cheer for you, you start hearing your own roar. You'll start losing things. Opportunities will slip through your hands. People you trusted will betray you. Plans you made will fall apart in front of your eyes. You'll think life is being unfair, but what it's really doing is cutting the fat, removing everything that doesn't belong in your next chapter. The more you resist, the longer it hurts. But the moment you let go, something starts shifting. You begin to see that what's leaving was never meant to stay, and what's coming needs space to arrive. The hardest part is patience. Everyone wants the result, but no one wants the wait. You'll see others getting what you prayed for, and it'll sting. You'll wonder if you're forgotten, if maybe you missed your turn. But time isn't punishing you. It's preparing you. Because if you got what you wanted before you were ready, you'd lose it. Life is funny that way. It gives you pieces of your destiny, one pain, one failure, one lesson at a time. And before you know it, the puzzle starts to make sense. You'll also notice how quiet confidence feels different. You stop explaining yourself. You stop proving your worth. You just know. That calmness isn't arrogance, it's peace. You've been through enough storms to recognize your own strength. You don't need to shout when your silence speaks louder. That's when the shift happens. That's when things start aligning in ways you can't explain. Doors open without knocking. People appear without calling, and blessings come without warning. And right there, in the middle of it all, you'll realize something. Everything that broke you was building you. Every no was protection. Every loss was redirection. Every lonely night was refinement. You were never being buried. You were being planted. Growth doesn't happen in sunlight. It happens in darkness, in the soil, under pressure. You had to be hidden before you could bloom. You had to be emptied before you could overflow. The process is cruel, but it's honest. It strips away every illusion until all that's left is you, the real you. The one who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't fear. The one who stands even when trembling. And that version of you, that's the one who wins. Because life doesn't reward the loud, it rewards the relentless. The ones who don't stop, who don't fold, who keep moving even when their legs shake. They don't talk about the journey, because they lived it. And when the moment finally comes, when the world finally sees what you were fighting for, it won't even feel like victory. It'll feel like justice. You know what's funny? People love to say, everything happens for a reason. But when life starts falling apart, when it really starts to sting, they panic. They curse, they question, they break. Because deep down, they don't want a reason. They want control. They want to know what's coming next. They want to know why the people they trusted turned into strangers, why the plans they built turned into ashes. But the truth is, control is the biggest illusion of all. You were never supposed to have it. You were supposed to learn how to move through the chaos without losing your mind. Every storm that hit you wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to wake you up, to shake you out of your comfort zone. But you fought it, didn't you? You resisted, thinking life was being cruel. You tried to hold on to what was already gone, tried to keep alive what was already dead. That's why it hurt so much. Not because you lost something, but because you refused to let go. You see, life only takes away what can't come with you to your next level. Yet you keep begging to go backward, begging for what you've outgrown, as if comfort was ever your destination. It's strange how people want blessings, but hate the breaking that brings them. They want transformation without the tearing, strength without the struggle, light without the fire. But that's not how it works. You can't become gold without being melted first. You can't be trusted with greatness if you still crumble under pressure. You ask for purpose, but purpose demands pain. It demands isolation, humiliation, and the kind of silence that makes you question your worth. And if you can survive that, you'll start to understand why things had to happen the way they did. There comes a moment when you stop fighting the process, when you realize that maybe the things falling apart aren't the problem. Maybe it's you trying to hold them together. That is, maybe those betrayals were blessings. Maybe those endings were instructions. Maybe those delays weren't denials, just divine protection in disguise. You start to see that every disappointment was really a redirection. You start noticing how the puzzle pieces only make sense when you stop trying to force them. And that's when it hits you. None of it was random. The pain was part of the plan. People will tell you to trust the process, but they never tell you how hard that really is. To trust when everything looks like failure, when your prayers echo back with silence, when nothing adds up. It's easy to have faith when things are going your way, but when everything goes dark, that's when you find out what you really believe in. That's when you learn what trust truly feels like. Not a feeling of control, but surrender. To say, I don't understand this, but I'll keep walking anyway. That's power. That's faith disguised as madness. You'll realize that pain has a purpose. It cleanses. It strips away your ego, your expectations, your illusions. It humbles you in ways success never could. It teaches you that not everyone you lose is a loss. Not every rejection is personal, and not every delay is a curse. Pain will show you who's real. When the lights go out, the pretenders disappear, and only the genuine ones remain. And most of the time, you'll look around and realize there's no one left but you. That's not loneliness. It's purification. Life had to empty the room so you could hear your own voice again. You'll start to feel a shift inside. The things that used to scare you will stop mattering. The opinions, the gossip, the noise, it all fades. You'll stop chasing validation and start chasing truth. You'll start valuing peace more than attention. That's when you'll notice how powerful you've become. Not because the world finally sees your worth, but because you stopped needing it to. You'll understand that real strength is quiet. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It just stands. And maybe that's what all this chaos was about. Maybe life wasn't trying to break you. It was trying to rebuild you. It took away what you thought you needed so it could give you what you actually do. It stripped you down to your core so you could see who you really are beneath the noise, beneath the masks, beneath the fake smiles. And once you see that version of yourself, once you meet that raw, unfiltered truth. You'll never go back, because that's when you finally realize you were never losing. You were learning how to win differently. Everything that went wrong was a message. Every sleepless night was a whisper from something higher saying, "Wait, not yet." Every door that closed was protection from something you couldn't see. Every delay was redirection towards something better. And once you understand that, once you stop fighting what's happening and start flowing with it, the whole game changes. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Try me." Because you realize what's meant for you doesn't require chasing. It requires becoming. And once you become it, the universe has no choice but to deliver it. It's strange, isn't it? How right before the light breaks through, the world gets darker than ever. Like something is fighting to keep you from seeing what's next. You start feeling it, the weight, the confusion, the endless whispers in your head telling you to stop, to give up, to let go. But that's how darkness works. It doesn't show up to destroy you. It shows up to distract you. Because it knows, once you push through that final layer, once you step through that last door, everything changes. And darkness hates change. It hates losing control over the ones who finally wake up. You think all those setbacks were just coincidences. All those betrayals, those sudden failures, those people who turned their backs right when you needed them most. That's not random. That's resistance. The closer you get to the version of yourself you're meant to be, the more the world around you starts to shake. Because you're stepping out of alignment with the weak and stepping into alignment with power. And power isn't quiet. It doesn't blend in. It stands out, and standing out attracts attack. That's the unwritten rule of transformation. The pain you're feeling right now, it's not a punishment. It's proof. Proof that something inside you refuses to die quietly. Proof that there's something bigger waiting beyond this chaos. But it's not going to hand itself to you. You've got to survive the noise long enough to see what it's been protecting. The moments that feel unbearable. Those are the exact moments shaping you into someone unshakable. You're not being broken, you're being rebuilt. But the process feels the same. You ever notice how people disappear when you start taking yourself seriously? When you stop being the version of yourself that serves them? They call you distant, cold, selfish. But the truth is, they just can't reach you anymore. You're not on their frequency. You're not entertaining the same games. You're not chasing the same meaningless validation. And that's when the isolation begins. It's not loneliness. It's elevation in disguise. The higher you climb, the thinner the air gets. The fewer people can breathe where you're headed, so they fall away. And you keep walking. But the path gets quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes you question if you're still moving forward or just standing still. That's where most people break. In the silence. They can handle noise, pain, even chaos, but silence. Silence makes them confront themselves. And not everyone is ready for that. Because in silence, there's no one left to blame. No distractions to hide behind. It's just you, your thoughts, and the truth. And the truth can burn more than any wound ever could. But if you can face it, if you can sit in it without running away, that's where the shift happens. You'll start to see patterns. The same lessons showing up in different faces, different situations. And you'll realize it was never about them. It was always about you, how you respond, how you grow, how long you keep pretending not to know your worth. Because life keeps repeating what you refuse to learn. The test doesn't end until you pass it. So every heartbreak, every rejection, every failure, it's not there to hurt you. It's there to remind you what you've outgrown. When the darkness feels unbearable, that's how you know you're close. It's the final battle before the breakthrough. The storm always rages hardest before it breaks. It's not because you're cursed. It's because you're chosen. Because not everyone can handle what's on the other side of endurance. Not everyone can keep believing when the evidence is gone. But if you refuse to let go when it makes no sense to hold on, that's when the impossible starts bending in your favor. Every great transformation begins with chaos. The caterpillar doesn't grow wings in comfort. It dissolves inside a cocoon. It becomes nothing before it becomes everything. That's what's happening to you. The life you knew is crumbling because the life you're meant for can't fit in the same frame. The pain is just the proof that you're evolving. And though it feels like death, it's actually the birth of something greater. The darkness is only doing its job, making sure you're ready for the light you've been asking for. You're not losing your mind. You're shedding everything that doesn't belong to your future. You're not being abandoned. You're being positioned. The world might look like it's against you right now, but that's because it recognizes your shift before you do. The energy around you starts to change before your eyes can see it. The old you is collapsing, and the new you is rising, quietly, patiently, behind the pain. That's why it hurts. That's why it's heavy. Because rebirth never comes gently. It comes with fire, noise, and endings that look like destruction but are really deliverance. So when it feels like you're surrounded by darkness, don't panic. It's not the end. It's the in-between, the breaking before the blooming, the silence before the sound. Because that's the way it's always been. Right before the light arrives, the shadows stretch the longest. You ever notice how life has this way of turning your pain into a stage? The same people who laughed at your struggle, who doubted your worth, who whispered about your failures behind closed doors. They end up being the audience when it's time for your rise. That's how the world works. It loves to watch you fall, but it can't look away when you stand back up. There's something magnetic about resilience, something unsettling about someone who refuses to stay broken. And that's exactly what makes the victory so loud, even when you say nothing at all. You see, what struggle builds a different kind of strength. Not the kind you can show off, but the kind that radiates without words. It's in your eyes, your tone, your silence. The strength of someone who's been through fire doesn't scream. It hums, steady and dangerous. The world recognizes it even before you do. And that's why your stage of pain was never just about suffering. It was preparation for recognition. You had to be seen breaking before you could be seen built. Because the story doesn't move people if they never saw the fall. They'll act surprised when it happens, your rise. They'll say you changed, as if the version of you that bowed your head in silence was meant to stay there forever. But you didn't change. You just stopped apologizing for surviving. You stopped dimming yourself to make others comfortable. You stopped explaining why you're still standing after everything that should have destroyed you. And the truth is, your survival alone is already your victory. The public reward isn't about money or fame or applause. It's the moment when your existence becomes undeniable proof that pain can be power. The world doesn't celebrate the quiet moments when you're fighting demons no one sees. It doesn't clap for the nights you spend praying, bleeding, rebuilding piece by piece. But the moment the results show up, suddenly everyone wants to know your secret. They want the glory, not the grind. They want the destination without the detour. But what they don't understand is that every tear, every betrayal, every heartbreak was a seed. You just kept watering it in silence, and now the garden's about to bloom. Not privately, but publicly. There's a reason your wins take time. Quick success doesn't last because it wasn't rooted in pain. Pain gives depth. Pain gives gratitude. Pain gives perspective. Without it, victory feels empty. That's why your breakthrough had to be delayed. Because if you had received it too early, you would have shared it with the wrong people. You would have invited snakes to the celebration, and they would have poisoned your joy. So instead, life hid your reward until your circle shrank, until your heart was clean enough to carry it, until you could stand on your stage without craving approval. You ever notice how quiet it gets before everything changes? That eerie stillness right before your whole world flips. That's the moment where it all comes together. When the seeds of your struggle start breaking through the soil, it's not dramatic, it's divine. And it's coming. The very pain that tried to bury you is about to bloom into something undeniable. And the best part, everyone who thought you were finished is going to see it happen in real time. That's not revenge. That's revelation. Because the truth doesn't need to scream. It just shows up and speaks for itself. The thing about being rewarded publicly is that it's not for the crowd. It's for the message. It's not about validation. It's about confirmation. Life uses you as evidence. That endurance pays off. That silence isn't weakness. That the ones who keep faith when everything collapses are the ones who rise